shop. Back on the 13 JK again. All right. We just did a water pump thermostat replacement video on this, and we're going to go ahead and do another video right now on replacing the coolant temp sensor. We had a code for coolant temp sensor, so we're going to go ahead and replace it. It's not a very expensive thing to do. I can see this thing, but it's not going to be fun to get to. Let me show you. Okay, if you look down in that corner, right under that steering shaft, there's a sensor that screws in the back of the head. And it has a little red button on top. But the problem is, you can't get to it. You can't get your hand down there to it. I mean, you can't get your hand to it. Unless you're quadruple jointed or something. my wrist don't bend that way. So what we're going to try to do, we're going to try to go in through the fender well. In order to do that, we got to take some of this stuff down. So you can take this wheel off and get it out of your way, but I don't think I'm going to do that. What I think I'm going to do is just try to pull this liner down and sneak in there. And I could probably weasel my arm up in there, but I'd probably end up with 5 million scratches and use a few cuss words. So I think I'm going to try to lift this thing up in the air just a little bit, because I have that ability. If you don't, then you just have to take that wheel off or crawl around. But I got a bad back and I don't like crawling around. All right, well, we're going to get this thing rocking here in just a second. But if you haven't hit that subscribe button, why don't you go ahead and do that. Hit that thumbs up. Helps the algorithm spread these videos out. We do have several videos on this Jeep. This is my brother's Jeep. We did an oil cooler replacement. It's a pretty big job. It was leaking antifreeze into the valley in between, under the intake, lower intake, and running out the back of the bell housing and dripping off the back of the transmission. We have a good video on that. We just made a video on the thermostat and water pump replacement, and now we're doing this one on the coolant temp sensor, which is going to be a short video. I'm going to get straight to it. So we're going to take this tin out, and I don't know what else yet, but we're going to try to pull this liner down without taking any rivets out. I don't want to have to unrivet anything. All right, we got this thing just kind of tucks up in there and clips to that right there, this little hole. So we got those rivets down. We're still working our way around finding rivets. This thing is riveted to this fender flare, and I'm not going to unrivet that. So hopefully I can get this down, or at least out of my way enough to get in there without taking those rivets out. So I don't think those are reusable, and I don't want to have to re-rivet that. All right, we've had a change of plans. I am not going through that fender liner like that, so I'm probably going to edit most of that out. I was going to go through the fender liner because I saw somebody else on the internet do it that way. You get under it and look straight up above that oxygen sensor. There it is, right there. So I'm going to do my best just to reach my hand up in there, push that little red tab up where I can unplug that sensor. Then I'm going to snake a wrench up in there. And I'm trying not to get cut on all this tin, which I probably will. That looks razor sharp. Probably is, and I'll probably come back with some bleeding arms, but that beats taking that wheel off, taking all that fender liner out, and then still reaching way in there. So with the wheel out of the way, it probably wouldn't be that bad, but I don't feel like taking that big heavy 37 off. So I think that's what that is, or it's a 35. It's a 35. Still, it's stupid heavy. My back's jacked up, so we're going up this way. We're gonna go up that way. I took a screwdriver and I popped that little red lock off of the connector, and then I just push the button on the connector and slide it off. Our new sensor comes with a little thread sealer on it. It's a 2-wire. It's a 19mm wrench fits that. So we're going to snake a wrench up there, pop it out. I'm sure we're going to lose some coolant. This thing doesn't have, I have not refilled it with coolant since I put the water pump and thermostat in it in the previous video. So we might not lose too much coolant, but we're going to lose some. Alright, it's not a flashlight, it's a screwdriver. Let's see if I can snake this up in there. Alright, I got it broke loose. I'm going to put a stubby wrench on it. Put a stubby 19 on it because it's in a tight spot. Now I've got it broke loose. I'm going to just walk it out with this. Alright, right off. About to take a shower. An antifreeze, how do I guess? There's a bucket slid over here. Yeah, there it goes. All right. Yeah. Well, we'll let that drip for a few minutes. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at this old one. Make sure it looks the same, and it does. We're going to change that bad boy out. If you don't have a lift, put this thing up, put a jack stand up under the frame. Get this wheel off. Get this liner out like I was just attempting to show you that way. And then you can reach through that way and you can get to that thing pretty easily. Like I said, I just don't feel like manhandling that big ass tire. Once this thing stops dripping, or I can get myself back up in there, we're going to go ahead and pop this new sensor in, and then we're going to add some coolant to this thing and hopefully not have too much trouble purging the air out of it. Alright, so new temp sensor's in. I'm going to button up this fender liner that I took down, which is just pushing these trees back in and putting the 10mm I took out back up. So if you don't have access to a lift, I suggest taking the wheel off, taking the fender liner down enough where you can snake in there and grab it. It's an easy job, and you can, if you don't have a scan tool, you can unhook your battery, clear your code if you got a code reading for a temp sensor like we do. Refill your coolant, make sure you bleed all your air out. Go back to the playlist for the JKs and Jeeps and look for the coolant bleeding procedure video where I explain how I get the air out of the coolant system. Hey, thanks for watching. Hopefully you got something out of this. Catch me in the next one. Peace.